Hi, this is Mr. H, and today we are going to learn how to read notes on the treble clef. This will work for any instrument that plays notes on the treble clef. First, music is written on a series of lines and spaces called a staff. So this would be the staff. It's just the lines and spaces. The staff has 5 lines, which we count from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In between the lines are spaces, and that's what they're called, spaces. There's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. We always count from the bottom. The first part of learning how to read music is just knowing if a note is on a line or a space. These notes are on the lines. The line goes right through the center of the notes. And these notes are on spaces. They're in between the lines. So let's see if you can answer along with me. The first note right here, is that a line or a space note? That's a line. The second note is also a line note. What do you think the next note is here? That's in between the lines. That's a space note. And we have another note over here. That's also a space note. And one more. What do you think that one is? It is a line note. So once again, make sure you understand whether notes are on a line or a space. That will be very important to being able to read notes. In addition, in music, we only use the first 7 letters of the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So there are no H notes or L notes. We only use those 7 notes. After G, because there's more notes than just 7, there's lots and lots of notes, we just start over again at A. So it would go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on for as long as you like. We don't always start on A, though. We could start on C, and if we go in order, it would go C, D, E, F, G, and then A, B, C. So it is important to know that notes move alphabetically. When we name notes on the staff, we need a clef sign. And this is the treble clef. If there's no clef sign, then the notes on the lines and spaces actually don't have a name at all. The clef sign is needed for telling us what the names of the notes are. And as I said, this is a treble clef. The treble clef says that the second line is G. And you can kind of see how it curls around that second line here. Sometimes we call the treble clef the G-Clef. And we'll look at some G's. So any note on that second line is a G. There's different kinds of notes, but these notes are all G's. Once you know what the G is, then, as I mentioned before, everything just goes alphabetical. So you can figure out any of these notes just by starting on G and then counting alphabetically up the spaces and lines until you get the note that you're trying to figure out. So this is a G, and in music, again, we start over at A, and then B, C, D, E, F. And it could continue up but we're not going to talk about that now. And it could go the other direction also. So if you notice, if it goes alphabetically going up, it just goes reverse alphabetical going down. So F, E, D, C, B, A, G. If you wanted to know the note on this space, you would go down one note from G, and that would be F. And if you went down two notes below G, it would be E. We also have a saying to help remember the notes that are on the lines. There's lots of sayings for this. You may already know one. The one we'll talk about here is every good boy does fine. And starting from the bottom, this is a way of remembering that the bottom note is E, G, B, D, F. The first letter of each word tells us what the name of the note is on that line. And this is true for all instruments that have a treble clef at the beginning. The spaces spell face, and that can be sort of easy to remember because face and space rhyme. So the bottom space is F, second space is A, third space is C, fourth space is E. So we're going to do one final quiz here and see if we can read the names of these notes. This note is on the line, and it's on the second line. It's also on the second line, which, if you remember, that's a G. So there's a couple ways to know this. We know that the G-Clef names this a G. We also know that it would be every good, so that's a G. This next note, first thing we want to notice that it's on a space, and it's on the third space. So 1, 2, 3. We could count this up from G alphabetically, so it would be G, A, B, C. Or we could think of our saying, face, F, A, C. Either way, the note on the third space of the treble clef is C. Here's a note on the bottom line, the first line. Once again, we could count alphabetically. Since it's lower, we'd have to go backwards. So it would be G, the space in between would be F, and this note is E. Also, if we remember our saying, every good boy does fine, the bottom, the first word is E, every, and that note is an E. Once again, we could count up to this note. This is a line note. If you remember our saying, every good boy does fine. And if you can remember those lines, you can just shorten that to E, G, B, D, F. And that note's an F. We could also count up for G. Since we know that this is a C, we don't even have to start on G. We could start on C and go alphabetically. C, D, E, F. We have one more note to figure out, and it's on the second space. If we go back and compare it to G, we know that G is the second line. So this is just one note after G. Since there's no H's in music, this just starts over. So after G in music is A. So hopefully you get the idea. I think if you review the names of the lines and spaces and the saying, it could be very helpful. But this is a good start on learning to name your notes.